There are many American beliefs that we are conditioned to internalize and accept just because we were raised in the United States.
Right, from standing and saluting the flag every morning from a preschool age into early adulthood. And by constantly reciting slogans like the land of the free and the home of the brave, we trust that America truly is the greatest country on earth. And so by default, countries that do things differently must be inferior.
But we're going to go over 3 American beliefs we no longer accept since moving to Europe. ¿Listos?
Vámonos. The first belief that we began to question shortly after leaving the United States and arriving in Spain was the idea that America is the freest country on earth. But how were we more free then than we are now?
Exactly. Here we have the freedom to walk the streets late at night with our children without the fear of violence. We have the freedom of eating healthy, wholesome food that hasn't been tainted by dangerous pesticides, preservatives, or growth hormones. We have the freedom to access amazing healthcare without the fear of crushing healthcare costs.
Back home, unfortunately, the threat and fear of violence is constant. Coming from the great state of Texas like we do, it wasn't out of the ordinary to see guns in people's waistband out in public. You may be at a restaurant, you may be shopping, and we have open carry laws back home, and so people open carry. And it's how free can one be if they have to carry a lethal weapon with them at all times just to have a sense of safety? I mean, that doesn't sound like a very free society to me. And when we were living there, it was just the norm. It was our reality. Unfortunately, we see school shootings pop up all the time. And where we lived in San Antonio, there was 2 major events that happened, in pretty close proximity to each other. One was an hour away in Uvalde, where there was a massacre of school children, and the other one was in a church, Sutherland Springs Church, another hour away from San Antonio to the south. And so the violence is constant back home, and we take it as the norm. And how free can one be when you have that constantly in the back of your head, that you can't even go to simple places like movie theaters, right, church, restaurants without that idea or the fear that someone might come in and just start shooting the place. And here, we never have to worry about being shot at. I mean, I'm not saying there isn't violence here. I'm sure there is. But it's not at the rates that it is back home. Back in the United States, you're 22 times more likely to die from gun violence. 22 times. I mean, it's insanity. And we don't worry about those things here. And that is truly a sense of freedom.
The stress and not having to deal with that has actually helped me, especially with our 2 little ones, knowing that they are going to go to school and come home. Because a lot of the moms back in America, or in Texas in our case, had that fear of like, is this going to be my last kiss, my last hug to my children? Are they going to come home safely? And so we don't have that here. And so that, to me, is a priceless freedom.
It really is.
After the violence, we also noticed that the food back home just isn't healthy. And if you do want to eat healthy organic produce or free-range grass meats or bread that isn't packed with sugar, you're going to end up paying a pretty premium price. It's either that or make it yourself. And that's what we ended up doing. I ended up learning how to make sourdough because I went to a local supermarket and was reading the ingredients in just a simple bread, and there's 30 ingredients in there. Half of the ones we cannot even pronounce. If we cannot pronounce them, what are we putting in our bodies? And also, what are we putting in our children's bodies? And so for me, that was very important to understand ingredients and read things, make sure we're eating clean things.
Yeah, back home, if you want to eat healthy, you kind of have to go out of your way to find a good organic selection of produce. If you're looking for grass-fed organic meats or free-range chicken eggs, they're not found at every grocery store. So you do have to go out of your way.
Specialty stores.
Specialty stores, or like you said, we started sourcing our meats from a farmers cooperative because we wanted healthy meat that wasn't pumped with antibiotics and growth hormones, because inevitably that makes its way into our bodies and affects us, right? And just like Hippocrates said, let food be thy medicine, right? It's the most basic thing. You have good food, chances are you're going to be healthier overall. And in the way that the United States and the European Union manage the chemical additives into the food, here they take a very precautionary approach. If a chemical has the potential to be risky, they just ban it. They don't allow it into the food supply. Back home, they allow everything into the food supply. And then if it shows that it has the potential risk of causing adverse effects, then they start to test it. And then they start the process of removing it from the food supply, which involves a lot of time for testing and a lot of red tape, which makes no sense. Why allow chemicals into the food supply that are potentially harmful and then work for years to remove it? So the second American belief that we no longer accept is the idea of success in America. In the US, there's this pervasive mentality that the more one has, that the more one buys and the more one has, the more successful they are. Mm-hmm. And it's this consumerist mentality that we've been subjected to since we were young, right? It's always about buying the latest and greatest, right? The latest toys, the coolest clothes, the biggest car, the biggest home, right? A big TV and a massive home so you can stuff everything in there. But the American idea of success comes at a very high cost. And I say that out of personal experience between both of us. She runs a bookkeeping and accounting business, and she worked for big companies back home who demanded a lot of her time. Clients were constantly reaching out to her. We'd be out having dinner or at home late at night, and clients would constantly reach out to her, and she'd have to talk to her clients and get to work because she had a workstation back home. For me personally, the year I was most successful, that I received the most accolades and recognition from the company, was the year I literally worked with practically no lunches. I would show up at work at 8:30. I wouldn't leave till about 6:37 sometimes. And I was seeing patient after patient after patient. And I would eat my lunch in 5-10 minutes, literally scarf my lunch down and get back to seeing patients. And when you're seeing 15, 16 patients a day, 5 days a week for about that span of a year, it has its own cost, right? It takes a physical toll on your body and mentally and emotionally as well. I would get home just completely drained. And I noticed, and my wife even told me, like, hey, you come here with very little patience. The girls want to play with you, or she would want to talk to me, and I wouldn't have the mental headspace to keep up with her. And I would just unfortunately, I would avoid them at times, and all right, go to my room and just need to decompress. How crazy is that I was giving my job, I was giving my company my best, but I was giving my family less.
Yeah.
But the company was happy. They gave me an award. I was Employee of the Year for my district. And they obviously, it comes with a financial reward as well. You get bonuses and things like that. But at what cost? The cost is too high. At least for me it was. I recognized I was sacrificing my family time, their well-being and mine, for more money that I was going to use to buy more junk that we eventually got rid of. We sold everything that we had back home.
Our house, our cars, all our possessions, I did have a lot of name brand shoes and clothes and everything. And I just gave them away. At that point, I was just I was blessed to be able to have these clothes and these shoes and everything. And I gave them away. I didn't sell them or anything. I just was giving them away because at that I felt the freedom of just letting go of everything, letting go and starting this new life in Spain without all of these possessions. And here we've kept it the same. We've kept it low, minimalist, and I really appreciate not having to keep up with a walk-in closet of clothes and shoes and everything that comes within a big house. And so it's actually grown my gratitude of actually having this newfound freedom versus the American dream of freedom.
Right. We went from a massive home to a small apartment, a small flat here in Spain. I've had the smallest wardrobe I've ever owned in my life, and I'm completely happy with it.
Yeah.
I'm completely happy with what we have. We both walk our girls to school. We walk or ride our bikes, depending on the weather, but we take them together to school as a family. Yeah. We pick them up from school together. Mm-hmm. We spend all our time together, her and I together. We're together all day. And it's the greatest thing ever. We've been together 15 years now, 16 years actually. It'll be 16 years this year. And I know her. I've grown to know her in these 16 years. But I'd say within these last 9 months that we've been here, I've probably grown to know her more than I did in the previous 15 years. Because we're together every day. And we feed off of each other. You know, I know how she's feeling because I don't go to work and separate myself from her now. I see what her emotions are every day and how she wakes up and how she falls asleep and when she gets hungry and how she reacts to things. And we're spending all our time together. And we all know that time is our most precious commodity. It's the one thing that we will never get back. Never. And so we made that sacrifice. We decided to trade a life of high income and cool things, material things, for what we have now, which is family time, a better quality of life living here with good food and good weather and lovely people and a community and family, which is the most important thing to us. And that, to me, defines success now. Now that I view it from this lens, I feel more successful now than when I was making a high income, when we were both making high incomes. And so the third belief that we really started to question when we moved to Europe was the idea of American patriotism, that America is the most patriotic country on earth. It's hard to accept that now, seeing the political divisiveness that infects every aspect of American life nowadays. Back home, everything's about what party did you vote for? And politics just gets embedded into every single conversation.
Social media, everything, conversations. And then it becomes a division of, okay, you voted for XYZ, we can no longer be friends because I don't agree with your viewpoints. When did that happen? Like, we're here to form an opinion. We're all in this together, and everybody has their different mindset. And here, I feel it's a little different because, yes, the government failed all the people when a big flood happened. And so the people know that. And so what do? They're protesting together. They're all coming together for a common good against the government. They're not talking back and forth on how they can't fix the government or how they can fix the government. They're just coming together for a common ground and doing these peaceful protests together as a community to make the government understand. And they've done it every weekend.
And when the floods did happen, that they called the Dana, right? The people here, thousands and thousands and thousands of people, went to the affected areas to help. Walked, because you can go on the roads. And so they would walk, they would bike, and you'd see people with their boots full of mud and carrying brooms and shovels. And there was a saying that sprung up from these actions, and it was that the people saved the people here. There was no reliance on the government. They saw that the government was slow to act because of the red tape and everything. And so the people took action. And I mean, it was so amazing to see. And we took part in it as well, a small part, but we did our part because we are here now and we are part of the community.
It felt great, though, when we did volunteer to see these communities of people that weren't even from Valencia. They were from everywhere, from Madrid, Barcelona,
everywhere.
All coming together. And it was just like, it almost brought tears to my eyes just seeing us all work together.
You know, America boasts that we're the most patriotic country, right? How can we be so patriotic if we're so divided? It makes no sense. You know, to be a true patriot means to love your neighbor, despite his beliefs on politics or religion or anything. If we are all U.S. citizens, we need to be united in that sense. That's what true patriotism is, at least to me. And that's the way I saw it when we were here in Spain.
Right.
Well, we really thank you guys for watching this video. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button and the notification bell so you can be notified of any new content that we'll be posting. And of course, feel free to let us know in the comments what you guys think. Thank you guys for watching.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
See you in the next video.
Adios.